This world of water is a fluid one, where life below depends on movement. But deep beneath the wake of this diving boat, something sticky lurks.
We use side scan sonar.
This picture shows what Northwest Straits Foundation believes is an abandoned gill net.
And then we set anchor nearby. This is the vessel. This is the target.
Kenny Woodside is suiting up to find it. He'll dive 45 feet deep, and today the visibility is pretty good.
Well, it can be really difficult if there's no visibility.
Within just a few minutes, Woodside finds the net. It's about 75 feet long and has become part of the habitat.
Oh, what kind of seafloor is it on?
It's on a gravel bottom, bouldery gravel bottom with clamshell. Octopus inside the net eating.
No one's sure how long the net's been here, but it's been long enough to entangle several rock crabs.
Come back towards the boat, Ken.
After loosening the net from the sound floor, it's time to pull it up and see what else it's trapped.
Sure, these are red rock crab. And you can see how they get entangled in here. So they can survive for a while like that, and then they'll eventually die like this one has.
Northwest Straits has pulled abandoned nets and cut animals free for more than a decade.
Yeah, we're going to try to get him out of there so he can live to tell the tale.
But most don't live. 450,000 entangled animals, and many of them are dead. It's hard to look at. Even larger mammals like seals and harbor porpoises, the nets keep fishing long after the fishermen have cut them loose.
We've never found a bird that's alive. All the birds that we've found in these nets are dead already.
Joan Drinkwin says when they first started the work, they never thought it would end.
You'd like a beer?
Today, they believe they've cleared 97% of the nets in Puget Sound, in all more than 5,600.
We'll hope he makes it, but he's gone through quite a bit.
Now the work will focus on speeding up the reporting of lost nets so crews can recover them more quickly. The nets covered 800 acres of marine habitat.
So it really has an impact on the entire food web of Puget Sound.
On Puget Sound, Allison Morrow, King 5 News. It's called the worst wildfire in Washington history. The Carlton complex moved fast and scorched nearly everything in its path, leveling an entire town and nearly killing what would become the Methow Valley's symbol of hope.
If Cinder can make it through this, then I can make it through this.
At just 34 pounds, starving and critically injured, Cinder was discovered crawling. She used her elbows and knees because extreme heat melted her paws. 1 year later, a truck carried Cinder back to central Washington. She's tranquilized. Her moaning, a sign the drugs are working.
Ready, Ben?
Biologists want to track Cinder's progress.
That's pretty loose. I might need to go one more on that one.
This collar will send signals several times a day. Looking on is Bill Inman, the pilot who volunteered to fly Cinder to burn treatment.
The amazing thing was that a crate big enough to fit her would fit in my plane.
But this journey, Cinder won't take alone.
If we can maybe push you guys back a bit.
She befriended this younger male in Idaho rehab.
Now, for the past couple weeks, this male bear would not leave Cinder's side.
The two will be released together.
Even if the tag falls out. A little bit of blood.
Now they both have ear tags.
This one's on for life.
And a dental tattoo with their number.
Amazing.
Cinder's progress
Isn't that something?
is incredible.
We had some of these claws in the front. There was only 2, and there's all 5 again.
Cinder weighs nearly 100 pounds more today.
I'm gonna go 119.5.
Ready?
Ready.
So heavy, she dropped hard when a clip failed. But this bump isn't enough to stop Cinder's road to recovery.
Now it's up to the bears.
A quiet night for their last one in captivity. This isn't exactly like Cinder's old home. Wildlife officials worry the Methow will face worsening drought. Farther west, there's more water and food.
So happy that they're back here.
Oh, there's those bears! There's those bears! Good job!
Biologists call this part tough love. The last few moments terrifying to warn the bears that humans aren't friends.
Let's open it up! Here they come!
Cinder ran off straight down this dirt road, but the younger male just peered out.
Yeah, yeah, yeah!
And then off he ran as well. In the distance, Cinder kept pace, but stopped briefly to look back one last time, leaving paw prints in the dirt and hope in her tracks.
This one bear is a source of inspiration for thousands of people.
Near Leavenworth, Allison Morrow, King 5 News.
It's about 550 right here.
Cow Palace started on this land in 1971. About 100 cows then have increased to 11,000 today.
Why don't we go up to the compost first, and then I'll take you back to the barn. And
Adam Dolson is a third-generation dairy farmer. His grandfather started Cow Palace, where 7,200 cows are milked in this parlor 3 times a day. But milk isn't all that comes out of these cows. And this discharge of liquid manure,
it's free of nitrates,
is why Helen Redout has 2 kinds of water.
You can't look at it and see a difference there, can you?
One is from her well.
Then it has to filter.
The other filtered through an expensive reverse osmosis machine, an investment she made after years of feeling sick.
You just feel like you've been beaten with a baseball bat.
Redout is 79 years old. A third of her life is documented in photos, but not the way most grandmothers' lives are.
More pictures of cow manure and cows in insufferable situations than I do of my own grandchildren.
She lives a couple miles from a cluster of dairies.
Right there.
One of them is Cow Palace. Another is owned by Dan DeRuiter.
We want to make sure that their bed is dry.
Those beds are dried composted manure. The liquid they stand in to eat is called nutrients. It's watered down manure and urine, and DeRuiter's cows produce 160,000 gallons of it each day, stored in lagoons like this one.
We're committed to, being the best neighbors and being the best environmentally friendly business that we can be.
Cow Palace has similar lagoons and rows of dried composted manure. It's sold for organic fertilizer and used on nearby farmland. Cow Palace's storage methods meet federal guidelines, but a recent ruling says they have to do more.
They've ignored the back end, literally, of the problem.
Charlie Tebbett is the attorney who filed suit against Cow Palace.
And here's the map right in front of us.
The maps and previously confidential data prompted a federal judge to redefine the nutrients as a solid waste. The decision Redout's been waiting decades to hear.
This is sewage. This is fermented sewage, and it gags you.
The ruling confirms what she thought all along. The waste is leaching nitrates into groundwater, posing an imminent and substantial endangerment to human health.
Who has the right to contaminate their neighbor?
But at Cow Palace, that ruling is questionable. They point to a history of agriculture in the area and say they're unfairly blamed.
We're invested in this community. We care about the people in this community.
Dolson considers his farm progressive. Cows have room to walk around under the sun. They spent millions on a nutrient centrifuge which separates solid waste from liquid. He says removing much of the harmful chemicals.
It really smells like nothing. It doesn't smell like manure.
Dolson already operates with standards above what's required in Washington.
I feel like we're on the cutting edge.
So does his neighbor, DeRuiter, whose expensive digester captures methane, turning manure into power and reducing greenhouse gases.
I know that we're going to do whatever it takes to improve our operation, to be the best neighbors that we can be.
But Redout heard that for years.
It's just simply another stall tactic.
She thinks of the thousands she spent to clean her water and all her neighbors who couldn't afford to.
Even though our rights are being violated, they don't have the economic clout to go in and take it to court.
I'm here to help.
Community members are meeting to learn what this means for them. The ruling affects nearly 600 homes. Many will receive bottled water and reverse osmosis machines like Redout's, paid for by the dairies.
This decision gives them hope.
It may also change dairies nationally, along with other animal feed operations. The dairies in this ruling now have to double line their lagoons with synthetic material and work to clean up the soil contamination around them. It could take decades and millions of dollars.
You know, a lot of the smaller guys, that's going to be tough to do.
Dolson worries only mega dairies will survive if his settlement prompts others.
They always have a golden apple. They always have a carrot that they can dangle in front of you.
At nearly 80 years old, Redout still isn't done fighting. and agriculture officials across the country are watching what happens in the valley she's called home since 1954.
There's a balance in nature, and what we've done is we've gone way past that balance.
In Outlook, Allison Morrow, King 5 News. Leaving Olympia and setting out through the South Sound. It takes only minutes before the dark blue water turns yellow with jellyfish.
So are you ready to start tracking?
Biologists with NOAA and the Department of Ecology will drop this net right smack into the middle.
Take a vertical column.
They want to measure the depth of this cluster of jellies. The video shows swarms, hundreds, right beside the boat. It goes down and down and down for about 35 feet. And the jellyfish never seem to clear. When the net finally resurfaces, the work begins.
All right, good. You got it.
Handling hundreds of pounds of slime.
Moon jellies, pretty much.
Measuring the large jellies.
210.
Even counting the ones they can barely see.
There's at least 100 organisms in here.
Jenny Purcell has been studying jellyfish for more than 30 years. When she started, science took little interest in the gelatinous creatures, but now they're spiking in number, and that's a concern for other fish.
They eat the same things that the little fish eat.
If jellies continue to grow, that may mean less food for fish like salmon. Prey for larger mammals could plummet, and waters could fill with a species that contributes little in return.
Sometimes called ecological dead ends. And the idea there is they consume a lot of zooplankton, but not many species consume them.
To monitor just how quickly the jellies are growing, where and why, this research gets a second opinion. A perspective from a couple thousand feet in the sky over Puget Sound.
Okay, so just out on our right-hand side, we're seeing some large smacks of jellyfish.
Joe Leatherman flies the plane used for Eyes Over Puget Sound. It's a Department of Ecology program that tracks changes in the water using photos taken each month.
So yeah, when you see the pictures, you get a feel for the scale of the issue.
That's why today they're taking pictures of the jellyfish from high above.
It's been warmer, and what we see is a lot of blooms, a lot of jellyfish.
They'll compare those pictures with the data collected on the boat. What they want is a scale, so in the future, when they take a photo like this from 2,500 feet up, they'll have an estimate of what that means in the water.
You can say from these aerial observations how big things are, where they are, and how they're changing over time.
In this picture, the tiny white speck is our boat, and the long lines of yellow are jellyfish. In this last cluster, they estimate nearly 2.9 million. There's a lot to learn, but not just about the behavior of jellies.
What humans have to do with it and what humans might be able to do to correct it. Population is growing, which means more stress to the ecosystem. So the more you know about it, the better you can take care of it.
Over Puget Sound, Allison Morrow, King 5 News.